never thought that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Von Beginn an orientieren wir uns optimistisch an diesem Zitat. Wir streuen den Zweifel und ändern es selbst. Wir wagen die Flucht nach vorn. Multiple, andauernde Krisen und akute Konflikte bedrohen den Zusammenhalt in der EU und gefährden damit eine friedliche und demokratische Zukunft ihrer Bürgerinnen und Bürger. Auch in den Gewerkschaften spielt die europäische Dimension nicht nur wegen der anstehenden Wahlen eine entscheidende Rolle. Die ökonomische Welt funktioniert global und europäisch, wirkt aber regional und individuell. Im Wandel steckt jedoch auch immer die Chance, gerade für eine digitale Jugend, für die Europa selbstverständlich ist. Wie kann die junge Generation die Herausforderungen der Zeit und die Gestaltung ihrer eigenen Zukunft schon im Jahr 2019 mitbestimmen? Wir sind eine junge Gruppe, die über 11 Regionen in 7 EU-Staaten besucht hat, um Europäerinnen zu interviewen, die wir über studentische, gewerkschaftliche und transnationale politische Netzwerke kontaktiert haben und Menschen, denen wir auf der Straße begegneten. Ein ganzheitlicher Blick auf Europa bleibt zwar verborgen, doch haben wir auf der Reise Köln, Maastricht, Brüssel, Paris, Toulouse, Barcelona, Marseille, Sanremo, Bologna, Innsbruck und München besucht und dort mit Menschen vor Ort gesprochen.
My vision of Europe, that everyone has a great time in Europe, that everyone is allowed to live freely, and peace for everyone. Yeah. I do agree.
On my vision, I would say that we have a Europe that doesn't act as selfishly as it does right now, and a Europe for the small people, so that you don't have these firms governing Europe. That's all actually.
Also ich gucke dann so nach vorne, sehe so 20, 30 Jahre und ich hoffe, dass dass Europa dann immer noch Europa ist, weil heute sind viele Krisen und so mit Front National und AfD, aber ich hoffe, dass das so bleibt wie heute und dass es noch mehr vernetzter ist und so. Das ist meine Vision von Europa.
Well, I'm for a federal system for the European Union, and I think this coming election will be essential to fight against populism that are rising more and more in all European countries. So, yeah, I am open to this proposal. Yeah,
like me. Same version. Like, yeah.
Same?
Yeah, I would say the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, very cool.
Yeah, we don't have to take for granted some important achievements that we achieved so far, because it's not been so easy. We had to fight so many.
And I think I'd like to say that we know each other from Erasmus program that we did 6 months ago. Yeah. So for us that's important also.
Yeah,
like,
very cool.
Traveling and.
Una visión sin nacionalismo sería algo bueno, pero no sé si al final es un nacionalismo más grande, hablando de un continente en vez de un país. Entonces es el problema. No sé si vamos a tener guerra entre Europa y África en el futuro si tenemos una unión así. Es la pregunta, pero es mejor que tener muchos países pequeños con mucho nacionalismo. Pero pues Le Pen, Brexit y la política de la Unión, que ya quieren hacer algo todo tan rápido para unir el continente, y creo que están haciéndolo demasiado rápido. Todo va fluyendo y poco a poco vamos a tener una unión, pero no si dicen vamos a tener la unión, un militario, ahora mismo. Creo que están haciendo todo un poco rápido, pero en 50 años vamos poco a poco y vamos a llegar.
Supongo que bueno, el potencial económico que pueda reunir, y hoy por hoy, bueno, ahí está. Tampoco tenemos el problema del Brexit, que no sé cómo saldremos fundamentalmente.
Mirar por una Europa más unida, no sé.
los problemas que podemos encontrar para que esto pase.
Sí, sí.
Bueno, pues supongo que la diversidad de opiniones que hay y la diversidad que hay de unos países a otros, evidentemente. Es difícil ponerse de acuerdo.
Sí.
Creo que Europa es un buen instrumento y es necesario, ¿vale? Pero que puede mejorar de muchísimas formas, en tema migratorio, en tema de género, en tema económico, en muchísimas cosas. Pero claro, si no lo intentamos cambiar, pues evidentemente es imposible que mejore. Yo creo que el principal obstáculo, me van a matar un poco, pero es que Europa está dominada por hombres blancos y ricos, básicamente. O sea, y porque nos dejamos llevar mucho por los países grandes que tienen dinero y entonces lo intentan disminuir un poco el sur de Europa y el este y tal. Pero bueno.
Como vivimos en Barcelona, voy a explicar mi opinión sobre el futuro de Europa. Bueno, creo que Europa está pasando por un momento complicado, ya que Inglaterra quiere irse de Europa. Quizá esto sea la punta de lanza y quizá otros países quieran también irse de Europa. Creo que la Comunidad Europea es algo muy positivo, que haya leyes comunes para todos los países y que haya una organización común, pero parece que se está rompiendo. No sé, vosotros que sois alemanes, quizá tenéis una visión más, ¿no? Quizá el país predominante, pero bueno, no sé, parece que Europa está empezando a romperse.
Well, as coming from the United States, I love Europe. There's a very different feel for life, and everyone just seems to enjoy. In America, it's very like work, and it's very scheduled. And in Europe, I just love that people take time out of their day to relax and enjoy life.
Okay, but
I was in France last weekend, and I witnessed the Yellow Jacket a protest.
Yeah.
I thought that was very disruptive of everyone's lives. There was a lot of like tear gas and people protesting. I thought that was kind of ruined like our experience as tourists coming. So that was interesting.
I don't know. I love Europe. I just love how everything is so close together, and you can go to so many different places and find so many different cultures. I love the traditions for sure. What do you think?
I was going to say, I feel like the youth is a lot more active. Like everywhere I go, I feel like people have a lot more life. I don't know if that's... I mean, coming from America, at least, I feel like we're all kind of like, not necessarily suppressed, but we're all just not as aware of everything. Everyone really knows, and everyone speaks a bunch of different languages and knows different cultures.
We come from a bubble, so...
Yeah. It's really refreshing, I feel like. And people are more politically active and aware, too, which I think is nice.
They care more.
For sure. I think just consistency. Like, I know in America we've been doing, like, women's marches in terms of that, and the thing is you can do one women's march, like, once, but you have to keep on keeping doing it, you know? If you do it once, it's like, okay, you hear me.
Keep on keeping
on. You gotta keep on keeping on. If you do it over and over again, people will hear you, at least. Or you'll only scratch the surface, but it shows that you're...
So the refugee project aims to integrate refugees into the local society, so to say. We have different teams that do different activities. For example, we have the sports team, we have music team, but we also have social events team, which is actually preparing a recipe exchange today, where people can bring their recipes and then you share and cook together. We have a connect team, and we do activities in the city. We go to the museum, for example, or have all sorts of activities just to bring refugees, locals, students all together and share stories and ideas. Well, I think it's important that we make sure that young people get engaged and that they understand what this is about. For example, I study European studies, so I'm very much into the topic. But I also know from back home and from here that many young people don't really get into contact with the European Union every day, so they also don't necessarily know how they benefit from it, or they are just not aware. So I think it's very important that we can raise awareness, so to say, to show young people how they can benefit, and also to of course, make them go to the elections, for example.
I'm not sure I have like a clear long-term vision of Europe, but I study urban studies, and I do an internship in like a cultural community center in Molenbeek, which is providing space for people for whom it's really difficult to find space in the city. And I feel like in the people who do the policy or the regulations in the EU, they always want to find solution for these people, but they never actually go to the places and never speak to the people. And so I think if we want like a more united Europe, then the people who are here and who are only in this area really have to go to other parts of the city and connect it more. So I think for a better Europe, I would for sure need more connectivity in between like the people who do the official stuff and the people for whom they actually do the new policies. So I think my ideal vision would be that there would be more connection between like different layers of society than it is now.
So actually, we are from Brazil, and we are here to travel some cities in Europe. And I believe that Europe plays an important role in the world, and Europe should keep on working, especially in the human rights and freedom for everybody.
We are working for the WIL, which is the Italian labor union, and we are very proud to be here, like delegate of this beautiful union. Our point of reference is to do our best to improve the Europe functioning from the point of view of the welfare, in particular for the disabled people, and from this point of view of the welfare. But even in the next multi-annual financial framework, there are some things that, in our opinion, must be improved. For example, the European funds for the next years for us are not enough, and we'd like to see a major investment on the development of Europe.
I think that a big challenge is a well-integrated European Union, and also avoiding that states are in concurrence with each other, and so the development of some others not will be in the damage of others of the same family. This is a big challenge, and another one is to try to fight together the next issues. This one is the criminal issues. In Italy we have a big problem with mafia, but also mafia is not only in Italy now, it's also in Germany and all over the world. And the big problem of migrants and the development of the underdeveloped region of European units that are also in Italy, but also in Eastern Europe as well as in Southern Europe.
Frankly, I think a lot of young people don't care about it. To be honest, I think we have a lot of work to do here to make young people aware of this European level. Actually, it's already sometimes for some people it's already difficult to be engaged in local politics or at the national level, let alone being involved in or interested in a European level. Though it's becoming more and more important, because a lot of legislation is happening here, a lot of decision making is happening here, so it's important. But I think what is lacking right now for a lot of young people, it's not clear what is the link. And what is the link between the European level and the national level, and how can my voice matter? Yeah.
Right. So in terms of Europe, I can only speak for myself, right? I'm not speaking for any entity or whatever. But for me personally, I think that symmetry would be an issue that is very dear to my heart. So in my opinion, certain countries benefit a lot more from the market logic of the EU than others. And I think that social transfers would be very important for the European Union. But since we're focusing on the market right now, we don't have that. We also don't have a common fiscal policy. And those are issues really that I see. Common monetary policy should also be more streamlined, and there are other issues too. But for me, really, the lack of symmetry socially is something that should be worked on.
I think democracy is a learning process. So we have to learn democracy. We will learn it over time.
at different places, at different levels. And this is one of the ways to learn it. And also to politicize people. So we always, how to express this? We don't believe in neutrality or in not being attached to ideology. We want just people to be politicized and have their views and express them and confront them. And this assembly is a place to do that.
Par rapport à l'Europe, on pense que l'Europe peut changer beaucoup de choses, notamment au niveau de la transition écologique, qu'on peut réussir à entamer une vraie transition écologique, à sortir des énergies polluantes, par exemple, à réduire nos déchets, à réduire notre consommation. Ça, on peut le faire à l'échelle européenne, mais il faut qu'on revoie toutes nos bases. Parce que actuellement, l'Union européenne est développée sur un modèle libéral et du libre-échange. Sauf que ces deux facteurs ne sont absolument pas compatibles avec la vision qu'on propose, qui est une vision, il faut qu'on arrive à produire chacun chez soi pour consommer localement, pour réduire nos émissions de gaz à effet de serre, par exemple, nos CO2 par le transfert. L'Union européenne peut nous servir aussi dans une vision internationaliste. La preuve, c'est que on est des Allemands, un Français qui parle uniquement français, une Italienne, et on peut construire des coopérations en France. On l'a vu l'été dernier, par exemple, au Portugal, quand il y a eu les grands feux, les Italiens, les Français sont partis les aider pour éteindre leurs flammes. Ça, c'est un exemple de coopération et d'internationalisme qu'on peut développer. Notre partie d'internationalisme, côté jeunesse, c'est les échanges scolaires. Tu es là parce que malheureusement la situation en Italie est assez compliquée au niveau des étudiants, mais c'est avec plaisir que qu'on accepte d'accueillir des étudiantes comme toi, parce que ça nous permet de rencontrer des personnes d'autres pays. J'adorerais aller en Allemagne quand j'aurai appris l'anglais pour rencontrer ça sera un peu plus compliqué, mais j'adorerais aller en Allemagne, en Angleterre, même s'ils vont peut-être nous quitter, en Autriche, bien sûr, en Italie aussi, pour rencontrer des jeunes Italiens, pour voir comment ils vivent, quelles sont leurs cultures, quelles sont leurs préoccupations, etc. C'est vraiment des échanges qui peuvent permettre de rassembler tous ces peuples-là pour voir qu'au final, on lutte et on espère les mêmes choses, qu'on espère tous s'élever socialement et élever aussi nos peuples vers un monde un peu plus social, un peu de l'entraide, quoi, et un monde aussi écologiste. Donc ce sont ces valeurs-là que propose la France insoumise, et pour justement changer cette Europe, vu qu'on a, je dirais, la chance de peser dans l'Europe, ce qu'on met en place, c'est le plan A, le plan B. Le plan A, c'est tout ce que je viens de vous dire, quoi. C'est vraiment, on essaye de mettre en place de nouveaux traités pour la coopération, mais si c'est pas possible, on active le plan B, c'est-à-dire qu'on désobéit à tous les traités, donc là, c'est l'Allemagne, mais je ne parle pas de vous, ne vous inquiétez pas. Tant que Merkel ne décide pas de lâcher du lest, quoi, parce qu'elle est en train d'étouffer tous les autres peuples, ce qu'on fait, c'est qu'on désobéit et qu'on va faire quand même de la coopération avec tous les autres peuples. Donc voilà un peu notre vision des choses à la France insoumise, et je pense vraiment que ça peut se faire. La preuve, c'est qu'on est tous là et qu'on arrive à s'entendre, à se comprendre.
Die Gelbe-Westen sind wirklich link, rechts, extrem link, extrem rechts, apolitisch, es ist jeder.
Alles.
Jeder.
Tout le monde.
Ja, ja. Und die Medien von der Soziologie her wollen sagen können, das ist rechts oder das ist link.
Aber die Gelbwesten sind mit dem System unzufrieden.
Ja,
es ist egal, ob links oder rechts. Und
genau,
die Medien wollen eine Seite.
Ja. Und das ist auch, was geht nicht mit dem Rahmen der Regierung. Es ist auf diese Kreisverkehrs oder wo immer die gelben Westen sind, jeder spricht mit jeder worüber die Ethik. Und das kann nicht unterdrückt werden. Deswegen die Regierung.
Die Europäische Union, das ist das Problem.
Das ist das Problem heute, weil es ist eine Banking Union, es ist eine Steuerunion, es ist alles Union für die Master von Macron und Merkel. Es ist the City of London ist steuert die Europäische Zentralbank. Bon. Ein schönes Europa wäre Deutschland bis zu Ukraine, die souverän sind und die zusammenarbeiten können.
I believe on Europe without a gender gap. And without a gap from the point of view of salary, and on Europe in which the education is for us a standard education which can make all the students competitive at an European level, and a social Europe for the disabled people that can feel comfortable everywhere in Europe without having problems related to this fact, or to getting in a bus, for example, or to studying in a library, because sometimes it's difficult because the structures don't have the right instruments, tools to help them. And for us, social Europe is something like that. And from the point of view of the problems, I believe that every country has its main problems, and it's important to cope with them in a united way.
Because I think if you want to see the bigger picture, then you have to get in touch with people from other European countries. So it's a perfect way to do it. If you can meet young people, same age, maybe same interests, or studying, or also getting their first jobs. And it's important to see that those people have the same issues, they live in similar conditions. And I think finding ways to exchange experiences with these people can be a first step into becoming aware of this bigger European picture.
That's already internationalism, and actually he makes me think about, of course, another important value, which is solidarity.
Yes.
Because if we are here today, it's because we're internationalists, and because we want to cooperate, and we want a Europe more, which focus more on solidarity.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the most important points of reference right now. Since, of course, talking about immigration, but it can be immigration, not talking about refugees, but it can also be, of course, as you mentioned, like people like me. I mean, I'm studying here in France. Of course, I love being here, but I'd love to stay like where I come from. I come from a seaside, and where's always the sun, and I'd love to stay with my family. But if I'm here today, here in France, studying, it's also because I've been forced to. Since I come from the south of Europe, we're feeling abandoned, and we're feeling loneliness. So talking to people like you, or talking like with comrades from France Insoumise, or it can be, I don't know, all the people that actually signed the Lisbon Manifesto, that could actually be something valuable.
Surtout que tu parlais de la dimension immigration, ça c'est un problème qu'on peut traiter aussi à l'échelle européenne. L'immigration, les réfugiés, on doit se les répartir entre nous pour éviter ce sentiment d'étouffement des peuples, parce qu'il y a un sentiment qui existe dans la population, il faut qu'on en tienne compte. Et ça, on peut le faire largement à l'échelle européenne, mais c'est vrai que l'Italie a été abandonnée sur ce sujet-là, et on s'est dit, bon, bah, c'est pas chez nous, c'est chez les Italiens qui se débrouillent entre eux, alors que c'était pas du tout la bonne réaction, parce qu'on est tous en capacité d'accueillir ces personnes qui fuient la guerre.
Especially between Italy and France and our borders.
Yes.
But yeah, and actually that's the Europe's fault. I mean, I don't want to be too critical. But at the same time, the Dublin regulation comes from the European Union, and the fact that we're actually talking about Italy, we're in the middle of the sea, we're in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, so of course the first port which is sure for them to come, it's us. So of course we have to welcome them. Not talking about Italian politics or not, because it's not our subject, but I could be talking about it like for ages, since we're trying to close them. But the point is, if the European Union, as you say, it's still focused on Plan A, so which means fiscal compact, social dumping, and abandoning people, and I don't know, in the sea in this case, or actually, I don't know, just talking about Italy or Greece, that's not the European Union that we want.
Yes, exactly. We don't want the Union European. We want a really Union European based
which is really union. Yeah.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, today in Brussels alone there were 35,000 people on the streets, and actually this is something that has been going on for many weeks now already. It started out with a few girls in Brussels who said, "Yeah, we want something to change about the climate, about policies. We want a real, decent, ambitious climate policy." So they started skipping school. Like Greta is doing in Sweden. And well, things, in Belgium we have a tradition of mobilizing people, of protesting. And you see that I was really glad to see this with a new generation as well. Because in 3 weeks, after 3 weeks, there were already 35,000 people. Young students on the street, and this was something fairly new. So I'm actually really happy to be seeing this, and so a lot of people ask if it makes a difference. Yeah, because today also the unions were on board. They were also protesting on the streets. So does it make a difference? And yes, it does. Before those girls were coming on the streets, before they were skipping schools, the whole political debate in Belgium was about migration. And this was dominating the whole political landscape. And now the big question is, right before the elections, right before the national and European election, the big question is, what are we going to do about our climate?
It's a really important question we have to ask. Yes.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of problem with young people, because a lot of people leave schools, they don't find work, and we have a lot of problem now. The health system is going to not to maintain the same standard of the past, and this is due to the austerity policies of the past. So maybe we have to rethink these rules altogether. That doesn't mean, okay, free debt and everywhere you have to spend all the money of the world, but we have to maybe to show responsibility and to try to change these budgetary policies.
It's important that all the Europe, that is an institute which I believe represents the future and the democracy, will help them in a progressive way to represent really what the Europe is.
So you can go this political way to institutional. Actually, it's an institutional way to influence. Then you can demonstrate. That would be like the citizens. Sometimes I think young people would like to have a revolution, like one moment where everything is changing. But when they want to keep the democracy alive, then they have to be patient as well, and they have to work for it, so that it could be constructed in a process with everyone.
It's a fear that often comes up, like if we randomly sample people, what kind of people are going to be in there? But now, and I think when you believe in democracy, you believe in you trust that people are able to take decisions. Now we ask these people to vote for people that are polarizing, that are making statements in order to get into the media, and you ask people actually to vote without really taking the time to think or time to discuss. And this, I think, leads to this right-wing or extreme ideologies. I think when you randomly sample people, of course there will be people which have these ideologies, but I think extremism is a result of not being allowed to express yourself. We are in a system where there is a very small space, a very small political space of what is acceptable. And there's a lot that cannot be put into question. For example, what you just raised wouldn't be able to be to be discussed. And by creating a place where people can discuss, but also are confronted with other views and have to look at each other's eyes when they discuss, we think these ideas will develop, will change, but also will maybe be more heard. I think that what we will sample will not be, at least not be worse than what we have in parliaments now, because we have these extreme views in the parliament, but these extreme views are tied by a program of their party, so they cannot evolve when they get into discussion with other parliamentaries. And they have to stay in that view in order to stay in the media. So they have to be extreme in their expressions in order to reach media and have attention. And the people we will sample will not have these constraints. So they might enter this assembly with extreme views, but nothing obliges them to stick to that view when they are confronted with other persons. And nothing obliges them to make extreme statements in order to be heard. Because they will not be re-elected.
Alors moi je rêve d'une Europe plus inclusive qui permette vraiment à tous les citoyens de chaque pays d'y appartenir en fait. Pour moi ça passe vraiment par un accès à chaque droit pour chacun, qu'on n'oublie personne. Est-ce que tu traduis ou tu continues?
Je traduis. I dream of a Europe that is more inclusive, where every citizen in every country can find its place, with an access quoi tu as dit à la fin?
Accès à tous les droits.
With an access to all the rights and opportunities.
I hope that the European Union can be socially inclusive. I think that it's really important in terms of in ecologic terms, economic terms, social terms. And really, I think that we already see some cohesion, but I think that it's also vastly asymmetric. The gains are asymmetric. And I would like to have the European Union with a stronger budget by all countries. And I would like to have a European Union that is democratic, really, and that listens to its people and that finds many ways to make their wishes heard in a way too. But mainly I think that we shouldn't leave anyone behind and no country behind. That's my wish for Europe.
It's my personal opinion, but I think that until now unions didn't its best to challenge the migrant problem, because there are a lot of migrants which every day died in the Mediterranean Sea, and there are some states that burden wake pressure on migrants, and Germany, Italy, Greece do their best to challenge this problem, but there are a lot of countries that do not, as Eastern Europe and maybe now Spain, yes, but I think that a globalized and union approach to migrants issues would be better for all. It's not only for Italy or for Germany, it's, I don't know.
Das ist ein großes Thema, speziell für die junge Generation. Nicht, weil alles gut ist und weil alles schlecht ist, weil es ist nicht schwarz und weiß, aber trotzdem birgt es schon eine gewisse Gefahr, ja. Und ich bin da schon immer sehr, sehr kritisch, jetzt auch wenn ihr als Deutsche seid, und ich mag euch, gell, ich das bitte nicht persönlich nehmen, aber aus der letzten, sage ich mal, 10 bis 15 Jahren muss man halt sagen, dass die deutsche Politik schon für sehr, sehr vieles schuldig ist, was in Europa passiert ist. Wie sagt man haltet sich teilweise überhaupt nicht an Exportquoten, die man in EU-Verträgen vereinbart hat. Man profitiert aufgrund von Wirtschaftskrisen in Griechenland und Portugal und Spanien. Dadurch habe ich einen Budgetüberschuss in Deutschland. Also da gibt es unterschiedliche Mechanismen, die da in Europapolitik schon ein bisschen einwirken. Und das, glaube ich, spielt schon für die Jungen eher auch mit der Rolle, dass sie sagen, sie wollen gute Arbeitsplätze haben. Das ist ganz, ganz wichtig. Das Wohnen braucht man nicht mehr drüber reden. Ich sage, jeder Politiker das Gleiche, gell? Günstiges Wohnen. Fakt ist, dass man es in der Großstadt einfach nicht mehr leisten kann. Und
ich denke mal, wie angesprochen, das Hauptproblem wird bei den EU-Wahlen sein, die Rechten, also die EU-Gegner, werden immer mehr innerhalb des Parlaments, und das ist eher eine schräge Entwicklung. Wichtige Themen ist einfach, ich glaube, es ist der Europäischen Union und die Europäische Union sind wir auch alle uns nicht gelungen, aus dem Europa wirklich dieses soziale Europa zu machen, wobei das auch schwierig ist, weil ich denke, dass jeder nationale Staat im Sozialbereich seine Geschichten nicht abgeben will.
Les charges des impôts, qu'il y ait une justice fiscale, qu'il n'y ait plus de paradis fiscaux, que les plus grosses entreprises payent leurs impôts comme les petites, et que tout simplement les salaires soient nivelés par le haut et pas par le bas, qu'il n'y ait pas de concurrence entre les travailleurs, entre les pays, tout simplement, qu'on soit pour une Europe sociale, et ça ira tout de suite beaucoup mieux.
La richesse, c'est que chacun a sa particularité et chacun peut être complémentaire.
I believe that is a difficult issue to cope with if there isn't a cooperation at an European level. And we'd like to see a review of the European Pact, because in our society sometimes it's difficult to integrate all the migrants because we have some internal problems related to the job. And so even for the Italian workers, sometimes it's difficult to find a job, and the unemployment average is really high in our country. And so without an European cooperation, it's difficult to cope and to solve this problem, because the integration starts with the education, but even with the job. And so if we are not able to solve our jobs problem, it's difficult to try to make an integration project which will be totally efficient.
Yeah, I mean, of course, talking about Italy, it's migration. Yeah. And the first time that I met Landry, actually, I've been talking about this because not a lot of people know about it. It's the Riace model, which is a model of welcoming refugees, and it's in the south of Italy because they welcomed the Kurds refugees about 10-15 years ago, and it worked really well because the economy of the city restarted. So it's not that we don't want them, of course, because especially we Italians, we were the first migrants in the world. We know we're actually everywhere and really everywhere. But the point is, we can't do it alone. We can do it alone. If we're really a European Union, we should stand together and work together about it.
It should be a social union as
It's exactly based on solidarity, social equality, and all the things that has been said.
I could talk about this for hours now, but I think, as I said, I think it's very important that people engage and do not take the European Union for granted, but that they realize that, we also sort of have to shape it. And we cannot just let it go and leave it as it is, because we are all constantly faced with different challenges, and I think that we always have to adapt. So, I guess that's what I would say.
I believe that from a political point of view, to cope with the populism is necessary to fight the perception that people have about the reality. So I believe that Europe in the next multi-annual financial framework has to invest more money on the fight against fake news, because in Italy we have a really big problem about that. Because I believe that if I have to do an average, more than 50% of information connected and linked to Facebook pages are not totally trustable. And in this way, the populist parties, and there is a video on YouTube of a journalist which is very famous in Italy, are using a system based on the fake news to change the perception of reality. And in this way, they gain votes. And it's really dangerous, because it's dangerous for the democracy and for the future of Europe, and even for the welfare of Europe. And I believe that the trade unions like WIL and even like DGB and IG Metal, it's important that they try to negotiate with the institutions a way to fight the fake news and the perception of reality, to ensure a real democracy, because if the people are influenced in a wrong way, I believe that is not a total democracy, and is not a total welfare for the people, for the citizens.
Well, first of all, I would say I wish for a great turnout at the elections in a short term, and furthermore, I think what we see with Brexit, for example, right now shows us, it's I think a very nice case, or not nice, but it shows very well that what we have from the EU, and I hope for the future that people realize that and continue to see that, because I belong to a generation, for example, that was lucky enough not to have to grow up with war. And I'm scared that if we move on, that people might take that for granted. And my hope is that this just does not happen and people continue to see the positive sides of the EU.
Yeah, and what do you think about the elections? Because we know that there are like the upcoming rights and they are going to gain a lot of power in the new parliament. What do you think about that?
Not if we can somehow avoid that, right? I mean, it's on us to vote. Yeah, possibly they will gain, but really, I think that it's on us to show a positive vision of the European Union, because I think that many people just focus on the negative aspects of the European Union, the interdependence and other things, and I think that it's often used as a scapegoat. People say like, oh no, but it's the European Union's fault, right? But really, the European Union is only composed of 1% of the budgets of the respective countries, and really we blame the EU for pretty much everything. I think that it's on us to show a positive image. It's on us to show what the EU is capable of, and it's on us people really to also demand an inclusive European Union. So yeah.
And maybe also of the young generation.
I think that it's also something that the young generation has to do, but I don't like to see these things in a generational light, because it's the same for Fridays for Future, right? People say like, oh no, it's a generational issue. It's not. It's an issue of equality, and all people should benefit in the same way. And I don't think that young people do have to benefit from it in a different way than older people, right? I think that really it crosses pretty much all spectrums. And it's just about not excluding people and not leaving anyone behind.
Well, I think a great turnout would be if a lot of people, and especially young people, go and vote, that the percentage of people that go vote is high, although, you know, there are some difficulties. For example, I have Greek friends here studying that can only go vote if they go to the embassy, for example. So I hope that although there might be some burdens in how people vote, that they still go and vote and then have a democratic outcome, and that represents what the people actually think.
Rückblickend sehen wir, dass mehr über konkrete Probleme als die gelebte Praxis von Mitbestimmung, mehr von Männern als von Frauen gesprochen wird und dass Stimmen des Nordens, Ostens und anderen Regionen Europas fehlen. Viele Aktive erkennen die gemeinsamen Herausforderungen und bringen überall ihre Themen auf ihre Weise in Bewegung. Als progressive Institution der Gewerkschaftsbewegung zeigt die Hans-Böckler-Stiftung den Mut, Akteurinnen der Zukunft zu unterstützen, die die dringende Flucht nach vorn der europäischen Jugend sichtbar machen.